To Papa.
Welcome to Derry just dropped its last episode of Season 1, and it got me thinking, Pennywise or It would make an absolutely terrifying tabletop villain, and Derry? Derry is basically the perfect D&D setting for creepy, reality-bending horror, a town that forgets its tragedies, a monster that feeds on fear, and a cycle that rewrites history. This is everything a horror campaign needs, built in. So today I'm going to show you exactly how to run Pennywise, the Curse of Derry, as a full horror adventure, a cosmic predator in a town that helps it hunt. Pennywise isn't just a clown, or even just a monster, it's a cycle, a psychological weapon, and Derry itself is basically a horror dungeon pretending to be a town. And the more I watched, the more I thought, this is perfect for tabletop, not because we want gore or we want jump scares, but because real horror, the Pennywise kind, gets inside your player's head, it messes with what they remember, and what they think they know, and what they trust, and it turns the entire world into something quietly, constantly wrong. So I'm going to show you today how to run Pennywise using pure storycraft and psychological pressure, Flamey's favourite kind. We'll be looking at fear as a mechanic, cycles as campaign structure, illusions that lie even when you pass the check, a town that helps the monster hunt, NPCs who forget the truth the moment the players look away, and the absolute cultural rot that makes Derry what it is. So the first rule of running Pennywise is he's not a clown. That's the skin suit, the marketing, the cover art. Pennywise is not a creature, he's a feeding cycle, a cosmic phenomenon. It's a psychological parasite that snacks on cortisol and adrenaline like it's popcorn. This thing is older than human memory. It fell to Earth in a cage made of star metal. It survived by stalking ancient forests before humans ever touched the soil. The humans arrived, then settlers, then industrialization, and then carnivals. And like any good predator, it adapted. But here's the key you need to understand to run him in D&D or other TTRPGs. Pennywise is not here to kill your players. He's here to season them. He stalks them until they taste right. It harasses them until the fear marbles through the meat, and then watches their trauma bloom like flowers. Waits until each character's heart and brain are primed for maximum flavour. So how do you use that in D&D? Simple. Pennywise shouldn't be run like a combat encounter. Instead, you use him like a pressure system, a presence or a storm front of fear. Your players should feel him long before they see him, and seeing him should be the moment they wish they hadn't. And if Pennywise is the knife, Derry is the hand holding it. The town is not a backdrop, it is the layer, and you're going to run it that way. In its natural state, Derry is charming, quiet, warmly lit community where nothing bad happens except for all those missing children, and the hallucinations, and the violence, and the apathy that infects every adult like a disease. But what makes Derry truly dangerous is that it protects Pennywise. It hides his crimes, it makes people forget, and it encourages people to look away. Derry is a living dungeon disguised as a town, so here's how you run it. 1. The town lies to the players. NPCs insist nothing is wrong. They gaslight the group with full, confident smiles. They insert doubt like a splinter. 2. Memory corruption. Characters walking outside the town limits begin to forget details. A child's drawing loses colour. A note changes handwriting. And the crime scene rearranges itself. Not magically, but socially, culturally, as if the town itself refuses to remember correctly. 3. Apathy as a regional effect. Adults do not intervene. Violence happens in the street and no one looks. Beg for help and someone shuts the door. Ask questions and answers feel pre-scripted. 4. Whispers in the plumbing. Sinks gurgle when Pennywise is near. Storm drains breathe softly. Plumbing knocks like someone tapping from the inside. 5. The town bends space. Just like in Derry, if a family tries to leave the town, it loops them back in. Make travel unreliable. Make players feel like the map itself is hungry. You should run Derry like an antagonist, a liar, a smiling mask with rot underneath, because inside Derry no one is safe. Not even you, my sweet GMs. Alright, let's talk about mechanics. Wisdom saves are your best friend. Wisdom saves represent instinct, gut, reactions, mental resilience, survival sense, which is perfect for Pennywise. Every illusion, hallucination or trauma trigger should begin with, give me a wisdom save. And succeeding doesn't negate the vision, it only lets you act through it. Fear does not vanish just because you know it isn't real. 2. Exhaustion equals psychological collapse. Level 1 would be disadvantage on all ability checks. Level 2 would be half speed. And level 3 disadvantage on attacks and saves. We don't need a sanity system, we've already got one. Exhaustion is terror, wearing down the body and mind. And honestly, this fits perfectly with Daggerheart. The fear mechanics in that just chef's kiss. It was built for shit like this. 3. Psychic damage is emotional wounds. Pennywise doesn't punch you. It remembers you or your dead father. It shows you the parasite in your eye and whispers your worst memories back to you. All psychic damage should have emotional meaning, so you're not just losing HP. You're actually like losing pieces of your certainty. 4. Illusions lie even when disbelieved. Characters know something's wrong. They know the hallway isn't supposed to be bleeding. They know their mother's voice isn't real. But knowledge does nothing to stop fear. If your players roll well, they still see the illusion, they just get to act through the horror instead of freezing. 5. Fear thresholds. Don't tell your players this exists, but track how many fear events each character survives. After 3 or 4, they begin rolling with disadvantage. After 6, Pennywise starts appearing directly to them. Basically lava gremlins. They're now on the menu. And I see a lot of DMs mess up horror villains by treating them like monsters, but Pennywise is not a monster. He's a chef, and your party, they're the Wagyu. What Pennywise wants is not victory or dominance or conquest, but flavour. It wants fear hormones. It wants your terror marinated with childhood trauma, and it wants your paladin to break before he bites. So how does he hunt? Well, first contact is soft. A misplaced balloon, a giggle, a shadow that doesn't belong, something subtle, off or uncanny. Second contact is personal. He takes the form of their father, their dead partner, their childhood bully, something that they fear most. And then the third contact, it starts to show teeth. By this point, Pennywise knows the PCs. It studied their weaknesses, mirrored their insecurities, and isolates them. And he never kills early. Killing stops the fear, and fear is the meal. Let the players learn this slowly, terrifyingly, as Pennywise builds his recipe. Now the fun part, the theatre of the mind where Pennywise sets up shop and throws paint on the walls. Here is how you can run hallucinations Pennywise style. Run illusions on a sensory overload scale. Start small, a discomfort, a buzzing, a warmth behind the eyes, then escalate, the eye stalks extend, colour invert, textures pulse, reality becomes a suggestion. This is psychological body horror, not gore or discomfort. These are all ideas I've got from Welcome to Derry, by the way. Never describe the deadlights directly. Describe the effect they have. Time stops, sound distorts, the players float, their minds slips from their body, their consciousness hangs in a cosmic ocean, and the party watches helplessly. Use paralyzation, not death, and psychic damage instead of violence, and use terror instead of combat. Any NPC who survives Pennywise is a suspect. Any survivor might be Pennywise in disguise. Teach your players to distrust their own relief. And you can use the town loop. The characters leave, and then they return, and then they realise the way out is gone. This is how you can trap your players without trapping your players. Give them the illusion of free will. The town bends around their choices like it's smiling at them. These are just a few examples, and a couple I liked from Welcome to Derry. But if you're really planning on running this, what you should do is ask your players to write down some trauma that their players have from their backstories. 3 things that haunt them at night and wish they could change. And then of course you use that against them. And if they can't come up with any, then take inspiration from some of your favourite horror movies. Let's look at feeding the cycle as a campaign structure. Here's how I would build a Pennywise campaign. You open with the children going missing. Not 1 or 2, enough that the village should be panicking, but they're not, because the town is already under the creature's influence. Your players should discover people giving contradictory explanations. Adults quietly rewrite the facts mid-conversation, and the town records have always shown fewer children. They insist nothing unusual is happening. Parents look exhausted but can't describe why. A few kids whisper about a jester in the woods. Another kid claims he saw a baby with wings in a dream. Wink wink. And you can drop some early hooks. A locked chest containing sketches of a star fallen from the sky. A local elder terrified of wells, caves and tunnels. Maybe a burned ruin that villagers avoid, or a shrine with offerings for children who wandered off. The party is pulled into the mystery because no one else is facing it, basically. And then the creature tests the waters. This is where your players start seeing targeted illusions based on their fears. Not random jump scares, but personal ones. Like I said earlier, you should ask them things that they're scared of or their players have trauma with. Like a PC who lost a sibling and then hears that sibling calling from a root cellar. Or maybe another PC sees a scarecrow turn its head and grin. Or the party cleric hears pipes under the tavern knocking in time with the heartbeat. The ranger catches glimpses of a thin figure hiding in the woods. At the same time, around the town, people are seeing ghost sightings, half-remembered songs, people suddenly turn hostile. Kids are drawing the same symbol, 3 floating lights, and your players should feel the monster watching, choosing, tasting them. And now we can escalate into the actual investigation. The party gathers lore, finds forbidden places, or earns the trust of someone who remembers the old cycle. They learn of a star fell here long ago. The shards were carved into 13 pillars. These pillars formed a boundary that weakens the creature. Removing or corrupting a pillar strengthens it. Every cycle ends in an enormous tragedy called an augury. Give them some locations to explore, like an abandoned shrine containing a cracked pillar, or a forgotten cave full of carved murals of past cycles, or maybe a burned mound where the last defenders fell, a druid grove where one pillar still glows faintly, a flooded lower chamber with murals of a grinning jester and pale children. This is where the campaign stops being a ghost story and becomes a cosmic problem. You could technically make this probably the longest arc of the campaign structure, where the party tries to find these 13 pillars and could have the most impact on the end game, find all 13 and push the prison closer together, trapping the creature inside its own lair. But each pillar has a guardian. You have to fight these guardians to get the pillar. You could use countdown saying you have 10 turns to defeat the creature, otherwise it will corrupt the pillar, strengthening the creature, making the endgame harder. Maybe a blacksmith in the town remembers the creature from his heritage and can make a weapon from it, like a sword. But in return for you taking a pillar, it makes everything worse as it strengthens the creature for the time being. After this is when the cycle accelerates, the town begins to rot, villagers turn violent in ways they never would, NPCs you know and have spoken to many times become hostile, mobs roaming at night searching for the outsider, ritualistic markings appearing on doors, domestic disputes erupting into bloodshed, a feast hall burned after a gathering turns murderous, children floating, only visible in torchlight from the corner of your eye, a fog that spills from wells, cellars and the ravine, the creature's laughter audible only to a few, or a cult forming around the local figure who speaks with visions. At this point, the creature is no longer feeding in secret, it's reshaping reality and the town is becoming its hunting ground. And now it's time for your midpoint catastrophe, your black spot fire, or your ironworks explosion. Choose one event that the creature engineers. It could be a feast day that's turned into a mass possession. A militar burns down the town's gathering hall believing a child killer is inside. Or a monstrous illusion drives townfolk into a stampede. Maybe a ritual cycle erupts radiant light and dozens vanish. Or fog rolls through the entire village and anyone outside is taken. And while panic rocks the world above, the creature is gathering fear below. And this is when your players finally learn. The layer is awake, the cycle is reaching its end. If they do nothing, the creature returns to sleep and the world forgets the victims entirely. And now you descend into the dark. This is the dungeon. It's mythic and alive and it distorts memory, time and physics. The way I would structure this layer is in 4 parts. The Starfall Cavern, murals of every past cycle, children's shadows moving on their own, carvings of the creature in many forms. And then you move on to the Bone Circus, illusions and real horrors overlapping, a jester made of bones welcoming them, laughter echoing from dripping tunnels. The Root Womb, living chambers of flesh and roots, people half absorbed into the walls, whispers speaking their secrets. And then the Chamber of Lights, the core, the deadlights, the cosmic truth of the monster, the children floating, suspended like stars, and the creature choosing which PC it wants to break first. And this part really depends on how your players went about the other parts, you know. Did they restore all 13 pillars? Did they take one and make a weapon out of it to try and kill the creature? Did they want to make its prison smaller so it can't leave? You can tailor the end fight around this. Another section that I probably would add would be the sewers, and make it into some sort of maze. And if your players succeed, reality begins to fall apart. They have to escape, the tunnels start collapsing, water floods passages, the lights flicker and chase them, the creature lashes out in desperation, ghosts are screaming at them, roots are tearing from the ceiling. Someone always almost dies. Someone might die. This is your big emotional cinematic sequence. And the party escapes, but the world rewrites itself. The villagers forget the missing, buildings are repaired, drawings the party made are altered, and notes in journals blur. Maybe NPCs confidently swear things never happened, or party members doubt their own memories. And a statue now stands where the disaster took place. The names of the dead fade from records. And the creature is gone, but the cycle imprints a scar that time tries to heal. Only the PCs truly remember. And if your party really loves it, and you want to do a second part, some time passes, years or decades, and one day, a dream or a sending spell, a raven delivering a cryptic message, or maybe a child they once saved begging for help. The cycle has returned, and the party must go back. Alright, so listen carefully, kids. This is important. Horror in tabletop RPGs is never about taking agency. You never puppet their characters or force emotional trauma. Horror normally works when players have choices and they confront fear and they feel responsible for survival. So here are some rules to go by. Never gaslight your players. Gaslight the characters, not them. Player safety first. Use lines, veils and consent tools. Pennywise digs into trauma. Avoid real world triggers. Make fear meaningful. It should change the story, not just spook the players. And give hope. Horror needs hope to contrast with despair. Let players believe they can win. And horror is slow. Pacing is everything. Start subtle, end cosmic. So there you have it. Running Pennywise on your tabletop is not about stat blocks or damage numbers, or god forbid a clown mini that floats across the table. It's about story pressure and psychological tension. It's about running a monster that has already won in every timeline except for the one your players are in. And if you do it right, the players won't remember the fear checks. It will be the silence, the creepy giggles, the child's voice calling from inside the tunnel. Pennywise is a feeling, a cycle, a story, a predator waiting for the perfect flavour of fear. So run him carefully, run him slowly, run him with love, and run him knowing that no matter what happens, the clown always comes back. Let me know in the comments if you've watched Welcome to Derry, if you've ever thought about using Pennywise in your campaigns, or as a villain. And if you already have, leave a comment letting us know how it went and what you did. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay spicy, adventurers.